guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a goat Q&A. So it is raining right now. I might have to stop in case it gets too bad, but I think we're going to be okay. It's only raining a little bit and it's kind of like off and on. So yeah, we're going to be doing a goat Q&A, and I took your questions from Instagram, so I'm going to go ahead and answer as many of those as I can. So thank you so much for participating in this, and let's get started. Before we do get started in today's video, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below because I do make a lot of animal videos and you guys will definitely enjoy them. Okay, so little critters, how many goats do you have and what do you like most about owning them? Okay, so I'm going to try to point out each of the ones behind me. The only one that's not here is Blue. Blue has to be separated because he is capable of breeding, and we don't want to have baby goats all the time. That actually comes up in another question, but he lives somewhere else. All the rest of them are here, so I'm going to try to point them out. Sometimes Wesley goes with Blue because he's his companion. But right now, Blue's companion is actually Petunia. They get along so cool. It's really neat. So, besides that, let me point out the other ones. Okay, so this white one here is Buttercup. And she is a super, super sweet little goat. Really, really nice. She actually licks me a lot. Right now, she's not too interested because she's eating. But she's probably the sweetest one that I have. Alright, well that did not last long, so here we are back inside. It actually started raining really hard out there, so back inside now, and I'm going to try to answer some of these questions. So I was able to film the goats earlier before I sat down from the hay. I was filming them out in the field for a little while. So I was able to get that, and I'm going to insert all of those clips now while I'm answering some of these questions. But I guess the majority of the video is going to be in here. Oh, and one of the only goats that I didn't get to film while I was outside today was Blue. I was going to go film him afterwards, but it just started raining really hard. So I'm going to insert a photo of him that I took earlier this week that I put up on Instagram. When I talk about him, since I didn't get to film him. So I'm sorry that he got kind of left out of this video. So let me show you a little bit about some of my goats. I do have 9 goats. I have 6 female goats and 3 male goats. So one of my males, his name is Shiva. He's probably one of my favorites. I just really love this guy. He's really awesome. And I've trained him to go out on walks with me and stuff like that. So he's just an amazing little goat. He is too big to be a registered Nigerian dwarf goat. Him and Wesley are the only ones that don't have papers. Since they weren't good breeders, you don't have papers on them. You don't register them. Shiva was too tall. So Shiva is a wether. He was neutered when he was just a few weeks old. Now one of the other boys is Wesley, and Wesley is another wether. Like I was saying, he was also a little bit too big to be registered as a Nigerian dwarf goat. He's not up to breed standards, so that's why he's fixed and doesn't have papers. He's not registered. Wesley is so funny because he makes a lot of weird noises. That's one of my favorite things about him. He makes these weird noises that sound like he's trying to say words, and so we say that he speaks human, and that the other goats are like, oh my gosh, you speak human, you should tell him to feed us, and stuff like that. It's funny. So yeah, he walks around just saying blah 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 blah, and it's so weird. And at first Shiva would get really creeped out when he would do that, and he would try to get away from him whenever he started talking. Wesley was actually banded before I got him. I was kind of upset about that. I don't like my goats to get banded. I've made videos about that as well, and I am against banding them. I think that they should be surgically neutered. It's a lot better for them. But he was banded, so I didn't really get a choice in that matter at the time. And then this here is Blue. Blue is our registered Nigerian dwarf billy goat. He is amazing quality. Both of his parents are show winners. He is what we use for breeding, and he's just super cute and adorable and has all of that luscious hair. I have peacocks in this video in case you guys are hearing lots of noises. That's what it is. So Blue does come from really good quality. Like I mentioned, his parents are show winners. We use him for breeding. However, he's usually kept away from the other goats because we don't want them breeding all the time. He has been bred to 2 of our females, and they had 4 babies between all of them. One had 1 baby and one had 3 babies. And those are the only kids that he has, just because at the moment we don't want more goats. I don't want more goats at the moment, so we control all of that, and he's not breeding right now. Poor guy, he's not with the girls like he wants to be. And sometimes his companion is Wesley. Goats are social, so they do need companionship. Sometimes his companion's Wesley, and actually right now it's Petunia. It's amazing how those two get along. And then there's Bailey, and Bailey is just wild and crazy and gets into all kinds of stuff. She's actually really, really awesome. And she's very friendly as well. But she is, I guess, kind of rowdy, you would say. And then we have their 4 kids. So there's Maybelle, and Maybelle is a kind of weird goat. She is so pretty, but she's very strange in the way that she is very standoffish from humans and sometimes other goats. She is very bonded to her mother, Buttercup, but she doesn't get along with everyone all the time. And she's just very strange. It's strange because she hates human interaction, whereas all my other goats love human interaction. So she's just kind of weird, but that's okay. We love her. And then, of course, Bailey has her 3 girls. And the first one is Elsa. She was the big one when they were all born. The 2 other ones were tiny, and Elsa was the big one. I do have a video of when they were babies. They were just absolutely adorable. And then, of course, there's Panda, who's all black and white with weird patches and everything. She's super cute. Panda's very funny because she actually sits where we feed the animals. She'll sit where we dump the hay, like she's always ready to get fed. And then there's Penny. And Penny actually had 2 babies of her own back in December. And what happened here was actually really upsetting. Somebody had a billy goat around the area, and he got loose. And then he actually broke into our fences and got in with the other girls. And I was pretty upset about it. I figured that we separated them soon enough. And I guess, honestly, it's not really that bad. Considering he only bred one of our goats, it's not as bad as it could have been. But it was still upsetting. Especially because Penny was only 8 months old at the time, and I do not breed my goats that young. Some people do. They're fully capable, as you can see, of breeding, but I don't breed them at that age, and I don't want them bred at that age. But we did get the goats born on Christmas Day, which was pretty cool and a really nice surprise, and we just did really love our little baby goats no matter what. The situation was unfortunate, but it was still nice to have the baby goats. Of course, that did mean that they were mixed breeds at that point, because we have no idea what the other goat was. I doubt those people knew what they had. So the 2 little boy goats that were born were neutered as soon as possible. And then I actually gave them to our vet, and he kept them as pets for his kid. He wanted some small goats to have as pets. So it really did work out for everybody, and everybody was safe and happy and healthy. So I guess that's what matters. Bramble Star Warrior Cats, what breed of goats do you have? All of my goats are Nigerian dwarfs. Shannon Newt, do you keep your goats for their milk? What's the best way to milk them? So yes, I did choose Nigerian dwarfs for being able to milk them. I don't necessarily have them for milk. They're pets, but that was one of the reasons that attracted me to the breed. And if you want to milk them, you should have a stand for the goats to stand on while you milk them. And maybe one of these days in the future, I will be able to do a milking video on them. I should have probably done that a while back when they had babies. I actually was milking them, but I don't know why I didn't think of that. But maybe sometime in the future I'll be able to show you guys that. Noah's 102, are goats aggressive, and is it easy to breed them? Usually goats are not aggressive, but they do play very rough, and you really do have to show them what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, and train them. And also, if your goats are for pets, don't keep them as billies, make them wethers. That's way better. And is it easy to breed them? Well, from my story about Penny, it is so easy to breed goats. Just, oh my god, so easy. So yeah, that's breeding goats. You'll end up with so many. Toby Darter 7575. When I move out, I want to get a herd of goats. Is it necessary to disbud and band young kids? Okay, so very first thing, if you are thinking about, if you want to disbud goats, that means removing their horns or forcing them to not grow their horns by burning their skull, do not get goats. They are not for you. If you have to alter an animal in a way in which you mutilate them, cutting off body parts, then it is not the animal for you. So absolutely 100% no. We're also going to be talking about this more, but there is no humane or painless way to disbud a goat. It is extremely painful for them. It causes health issues in the future. Anybody who's telling you that it's necessary or that it doesn't hurt them or that they should do it, they are just saying that for themselves, for their own lazy way of raising goats. It is convenient to the farmer. It is not beneficial in any sort of way to the goat. And I have a whole video about this. It's about several different types of animals and things that humans do to them, but I'll link that video. I just kind of want to briefly talk about disbudding, but basically, no, you do not disbud goats. That is incredibly cruel, inhumane, and anybody who's like, oh, but then the goats can't hurt themselves or they can't hurt each other. So you're telling me that you want to fix evolution. Like, these goats have had horns for millions of years. They evolved to have their horns and have their horns around each other. But suddenly you come along and you think that you have a better way. That's just ridiculous to me. These goats are doing fine with their horns. They need their horns. And there's no way to do it where you're not going to hurt them. You're going to cause them severe pain. And we're going to talk about also how you can make their life worse by doing it. Banding young kids. No, please, please do not band your goats. If you're decided that you want to have goats, have them surgically neutered. It's better for them. So next question, do goats' horns need to be trimmed? One time someone told me they did, otherwise the horns would grow into their head like an overgrown nail. I was just wondering if that was true. No, goats do not need to have their horns trimmed. They grow to a certain length for a certain amount of time, probably like 2 to 3 years their horns can grow, and then they stop. And they're not going to grow into the goat. That's not going to happen. Nothing like that's going to happen. They'll grow out and they'll be just fine. And after a certain amount of time, that's it. They're not going to really grow anymore. They're going to be that size. But the person that told you this was probably not lying. They probably just didn't explain everything to you. So like I was saying, if you disbud your goats, you are going to cause more problems than you are going to fix. A lot of times when goats are disbudded when they're very young, it doesn't actually work very well. And it doesn't stop the horn from growing. It just ruins it. And so what happens is that after they're disbudded, the horns do continue to grow, but now they're all messed up. And so a lot of times they'll start growing in weird directions and they will actually harm the goat, and they can grow in a way that they will start to go into the skull. So that is technically true, and for those goats, they do have to have their horns trimmed. So that's probably where they came up with that. So there's those certain situations where they do have to get their horns trimmed. Sarah Farah Haney, do goats recognize their owners versus strangers? Yes, goats do recognize their owners. They also recognize different owners. So like they'll recognize me, they'll recognize Hyman, kind of like dogs actually, and they can tell who they know and who they don't know. Some goats actually do care about that. They don't like to approach strangers. And some goats don't care. They'll just approach anybody. Katie Gilson, we want to get goats eventually. What's the best breed to get for beginners? Would babies be a good idea, or should we start with adults? The breed really depends on what you want out of a goat. So it just depends on what your family's looking for, what you guys are thinking of doing with your goats. So figure out like what you would like in regards to that, and then look for breeds that fit that. If you're just looking for pets, I do recommend small goats. So you can either do pygmy goats or Nigerian dwarf goats. Personally, I think that Nigerian dwarfs are prettier than pygmies, but pygmies are very popular and very easy to get. So that might be a good one if you guys just want pets. So should you start with babies or should you get adults? That's a good question. Babies are actually not hard, and I would say I think the best option is to get babies that are about 8 weeks old. That's probably the easiest. Those goats are going to be able to bond to you really well, better than a goat that's older. And they are already bottle fed, so you won't have to worry about feeding them or anything like that. However, if you do want to bottle feed your goats, that's totally possible. I have a video about it. I will link it down below. And I think it's just amazing to be able to bottle feed your goats and really bond with them. So I think that's really a good option, but it's a lot of work. And if you don't do it right, you can really harm your goat and you can even kill them. So that's something to consider. But I think probably the best option is goats that are 8 weeks. Hello, how many goats is the minimum you recommend to own? How would they survive cold winters, and how males behave around each other? Is it okay to have more than one male? Okay, so the minimum recommendation for goats is 2. You should have at least 2 goats because they are extremely social animals. I always want to have my goats with other goats. However, recently we had this really weird thing where like Petunia and Blue get along really well, so they've actually been companions. But originally I did get another wether to be a companion for Blue. So I guess that's kind of something new that I'm exploring and going to learn more about, companions for goats that are not goats. But typically you do always want to have 2. And to remember that the situation with Petunia is that they have become friends, and that's not something that we forced on them. So don't think, okay, I'm just going to get one goat and it's going to be friends with my dog. Most likely it's not. Goats usually don't really like dogs, and you shouldn't go into it trying to do that. Sometimes with these animals they find weird friendships, and that's okay, but make sure you get 2. So how do goats survive cold winters? If you're somewhere where it snows or up north, you do need to have a barn for your goat. We have shelters for our goats when it gets cold, but here it doesn't really get very cold, so that's not too much of an issue for us. But you do need to have a barn for your goats if you're somewhere where it does get cold. As for males, if you are thinking about getting pets, then I would recommend to get 2 males that are neutered. They'll get along just fine. Billy goats can fight with each other, and billy goats can also fight with other males. Ours does pretty well with the weather, but they grew up together, so yeah, it's just, there's a lot that goes into it. But yes, you can have multiple males. The best thing to do is have them neutered. Kylie Gilliam, do goats like to use the bathroom in one corner of their pen or run, or do they go everywhere? Oh, they go everywhere. That's one of the most convenient and wonderful things about alpacas, is that they go in one place, and you can even show them where you want them to go. Goats, they just will be standing there and they go. It's so annoying. Beckex. Are goats good beginner pets? Also, are goats expensive pets? Also, should you have more than one? So, like I said, always 2. Goats being beginner pets, I think they're like a beginner farm animal. They're not too difficult to take care of. You just got to do a lot of research. Are they expensive pets? I don't think they're expensive pets because they don't require good quality hay. They can have lower quality hay, so you don't have to spend so much on their hay. And there's not really a whole lot to them. So yeah, I think that they're pretty easy for the most part and not really too expensive. I think the most expensive thing that you're gonna have with goats is keeping up with repairs. They are very destructive, which we'll answer some more questions in regards to that soon. But that's probably where you're going to spend the most of your money, is fencing for goats. MET Jorge, how much hay do I need to feed each goat on a daily basis? So this really depends on the size of your goat. I'm pretty sure that like 3 of my goats eats what one regular sized goat would eat. Mine are very small. So it just depends on your goats. You want to make sure that they're healthy, that they're not too skinny, but that they're not overweight. And that's something that you just have to learn with your goats, because each one's going to be different. There's different breeds, different sizes, and their levels of activity might be different. What they have around them might be different. Ours rely mostly on grazing during the summer. So it's kind of hard to say exactly how much you should feed a goat. That's one of the biggest criticisms I get from the Feeding All My Pets video is people telling me how I don't feed my goats enough. My goats are definitely not wanting at all. And when you overfeed a goat, you can kill it. They can bloat and die. And goats are greedy little pigs, so they'll eat a lot, even after they're full, even after their tummies hurt. So you have to be careful with that. You can see in the All My Pets video, all I feed my goats is some grain, and they don't require a lot of grain. And you have to be really careful because if you over supplement them on grain, they can get sick. And so I've had like both comments on that video. I've had people tell me that I'm not feeding them anything, and then I've had people tell me that like I'm overdoing it with them. So the thing is finding what works for your goat. So I'm sorry that was, I guess, not probably the answer you wanted. It was kind of vague. King Savage 102003. Are smaller type goats easier to keep than bigger goats? And also, how many times a day do you have to feed them? So you just have to feed them once a day, maybe twice a day, depending on if they have anywhere to graze or anything like that. Are smaller goats easier to keep than bigger goats? Yeah, technically they are. One of the really nice things about smaller goats is that they don't require as high of a fence. Goats are just like, oh, they're escape artists. So when you have smaller goats, your fence doesn't have to be as high. They take a little bit longer to break through fences. Big goats, they're stronger. They can hit stuff harder, so they'll be able to get through things. And they'll be able to get over small fences. So yeah, smaller goats are easier in that aspect. Wake Up Pin Slowtown. Would you ever consider keeping a goat in your house? Absolutely not. I'll keep them like in the house while I'm bottle feeding and things like that, but a full-grown goat in the house, no. They're so dirty. Like I said, they go everywhere. And I know people are like, oh, this goat's potty trained. I'll believe it when I see it. Green Eggs and Sam 94. What kind of animals can or can't be kept in the same enclosure as goats? That really depends on your goats and really depends on the other animals. So with my goats can be with alpacas and my miniature pig, and they do great. Some pigs can't be around goats because they're incredibly aggressive, and I've heard that they kill baby goats. Like I've kind of said in pig videos, I think that depends on how you raise them, but that has happened. So there's that. Petunia's super sweet, should never do anything like that. Alpacas. The issue with alpacas and goats is that you don't want them carrying parasites. My goats are incredibly clean animals, as far as parasites go, not the pooping. And so they're not gonna pose a risk to bringing in something to the alpacas in that aspect. The other thing too is that they are smaller and they're really actually not super rowdy. They're not trying to hit the alpacas, and that's another way that goats can hurt alpacas. So you want to make sure that your goats are going to be able to coexist with your alpacas peacefully. So that's one animal. Sometimes goats can be in with cows. You just got to be careful because a cow's a much bigger animal. Llamas can actually be in with goats, and that's almost all the time because llamas are really great guard animals, so having a llama for goats is a really good idea. Sheep, some sheep can be kept with goats. I think there's a lot of possibilities. It just really depends on the animals that you have. River Villanueva. Hi Megan, what is the main difference between goat's milk and cow's milk? Goat's milk is actually a lot healthier than cow's milk. You digest goat's milk a lot quicker. There's been studies that babies that are raised on goat's milk instead of cow's milk actually have better digestive health, better immune systems. Goat's milk has a lot less sugar than cow's milk. So really, goat's milk is much healthier, much better, and it's better for people to be drinking goat's milk than to be drinking cow's milk. So that's some of the differences. Yvonne Pets, what do you do to play with goats? I feel like they're not like dogs. You can't throw a ball and get them to fetch. Can't get any of my dogs to do that. Goats are different than dogs to play with, and goats are very agile and they like to climb and jump and do things like that. So what I did is when I had Shiva, Buttercup, and Bailey as babies, I set up an obstacle course, and Bailey was really good at this. Buttercup is terrible at being a goat. But Bailey would jump around the obstacle course, and I would teach her to go to the parts that I wanted her to go to. So I would get her to like jump here, now over here. And so she had a lot of fun doing that. So that was something really cool to do with the goats. I think being very interactive with the goats and being like, you know, athletic with them is something that's fun to do with the goats. Hercules the Ham Lord, what is your goat's full diet that you feed your goats? I also would love to see an unpopular opinion animal edition video because I feel like you are one of the pet YouTubers that doesn't always agree with popular opinion. Anyways, I love you, your videos, and your pets. I don't know if I would do an unpopular opinion video. I feel like my whole channel is an unpopular opinion channel. Yes, I don't. I don't do what everybody else says. I do what I think makes the most sense. Anyways, thank you for the support. My goats' full diet. So my goats mainly eat hay during the. Thank you, Barry. During the winter, they eat a mixture of alfalfa and grass. During the summer, they eat just grass hay. During the summer, they rely a lot on grazing, going out to the field and just eating stuff out there. And then they also get grain. So they get a mixture of oats and do more goat pellets. Sassy Sarah XO97. Do you follow No Goats of Anarchy? She rescues goats and sometimes other types of animals too. Yes, I do follow Goats of Anarchy. I think they're really amazing. They do a lot of great stuff for animals, and I don't know, they just like have a really cool Instagram page where they do a bunch of neat stuff. So I think that's really, really cool. I like them a lot. Tasty Pet 16. What is your favorite color of goat? Love your animals so much. My favorite color of goat is the type that Shiva is. It looks like pinto. I don't even know what you'd call it. I don't really know too much about goat colors. He has black, brown, and white. Just absolutely beautiful colors. I think he's the prettiest one. X Gillian Burger X. Hey Megan, I was wondering if goats are really that destructive as people say. Yes they are. My goats have like eaten my hair. They try to eat my clothes. They chew on everything. The really crazy thing about goats and how destructive they are is just what they do to fences. Blue, the billy goat, is in this one pen. Wesley was in with him, so Wesley's probably also responsible for this. And so he's in this pen where the fence is like this, right? That's how it is when I set it up for them. And then slowly, over a couple of months, the fence is like this. And it's just leaning. And I had to get the whole thing fixed because they hit it and hit it and hit it over and over. And then the other goats too, over in the other in the field, they also hit the fences, but I think they have other things to hit. They hit trees and things like that with their heads just repeatedly. Like one of the goats was hitting a pipe just over and over and over. Like I'm not really sure I understand the logic of it, but they just do that, and they're so incredibly destructive, and they ruin fences. So yeah, goats really are that destructive. Little Liberty's goats. Can you tell the difference in your goats' voices? We know our goats' voices, and people think we were crazy. We go out that was so-and-so. Laugh out loud. Yes, I can tell the difference between the goats' noises. It is really funny, and I guess that's something I hadn't really thought of, but yeah, when you own these animals, you get so used to them, and I can totally see people thinking you're crazy, but they do sound different. Marissa.arc. Hey Megan, I hope you didn't film this already. I have a, you know, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pronounce this. Lamach. You know, I'm not even going to try. I have like so much trouble pronouncing words. Goat who's about 2 years old, and she's never had a baby, but about a month and a half ago she started to produce milk. Of course, I had the vet come out, and he said that this is a hysterical pregnancy and that she has a hormonal imbalance. Has this ever happened to one of your females? Have you ever heard of this happening? I'm just curious because it was so strange to me, and as you know, love you and your channel. No, actually I've never had that happen. I've kind of heard about it, but I've never experienced it, and I don't know of anybody who has. Well, besides you, I don't know of anybody who has. At the clinic we do see farm animals and things like that, and I've never seen somebody actually come in for that. but I have heard about it. Like I have heard about them producing milk. I've also heard of like other females starting to produce milk when they're around babies. But that does sound very strange. So thanks for letting me know about it. And now I can kind of look more into it because it sounds really interesting. Maybe something I want to learn more about. Beautiful kitties, what vaccines should goats have? That's something that really depends on your area. I don't like to give advice on vaccines for animals that are, not cats and dogs because care really varies, and especially where you're from. Here, they don't really vaccinate the farm animals too much, but that's because we don't have like a lot that's really going on in this area. There's really not a lot of things that they're exposed to. So yeah, I'm sorry that's kind of a vague answer, but that's one of the things that, like, if you probably don't have goats, but if anybody who has goats is wondering, please talk to your vet about something like that and talk about what risks your goats are at in your area. A vet who lives in your area is going to know. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed learning more about my goats and goats in general. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye!